Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this special virtual family engagement session. Tonight, we're doing something different. We are actually hosting tonight's meeting with help from our partners at The Ohio State University using this Zoom platform that you're seeing, but all of our guests are coming in on Facebook tonight. And we're using Facebook tonight because there were so many of you who had questions, who wanted to see a demonstration of this virtual platform. So we thank you for changing up a little bit and using Facebook as the best way to communicate. So as part of this meeting, I hope that you will still continue to use the chat feature that's on Facebook, because that's the best way to get information to us. There are going to be staff members from Columbus City Schools who will be on the chat in Facebook trying to answer some of your questions. So as you have questions, put them on there. But I think you're going to get a lot of answers tonight and a great in-depth demonstration of the two platforms that are going to be used for the Digital Academy. We're very excited to be able to show kind of that deeper look at the platforms. And this is an option that many of our families are using because at last check, we have roughly 4,500 students who are looking at this as an option. And I think that is pretty incredible. So let's get started tonight. As we talked about our face-to-face virtual family engagement session, where FACE stands for Family and Community Engagement. We launched these engagement sessions because of a commitment by our superintendent, Dr. Dixon, to making sure that we are doing the best we can to engage our families, to engage our community partners, to engage the entire CCS family, to helping make sure that we are helping everyone be as best ready as possible for the start of school on September 8th. We know there's so much that's changing almost on a day-to-day basis, it seems, and we're going to try to do our best to make sure that all of our families are engaged and that we are part of a conversation so that we're all as best ready as possible for the start of school. A quick calendar. Tonight we're going to be focused on the Digital Academy and a demonstration of that. But if next week we're going to be focused in on helping our new American families, our immigrant families, those homes where English may not be the primary language. So if you know of families that might be the situation, make sure that they tune in next week to our series of virtual family engagement sessions. You see there that we're going to start Tuesday with Spanish, and then we're going to on Wednesday have 2 sessions, Thursday 2 more sessions. Interpreters will be available on those sessions so that we are making sure families hear the information they need to hear in their language. Again, trying to engage all families in as many languages as possible. During our session today, I'm going to ask for your help in helping us exercise grace. Grace, where we try to give everyone the opportunity to have their voices heard. A lot of that's going to be through the chat. So again, I encourage you to make sure that you're using that chat feature as best possible. Remain positive. We know there's a lot of questions and concerns, but let's all be positive, and we're always going to be considerate and consider the feelings of others. We're going to work to continually monitor our tone because we know that it's everyone. We are all in this together to be successful. Before we begin, I do want to make sure that we take a little bit of time to share with you just updated news. And by now, I hope everyone in our Columbus community has heard the news that was shared earlier this week, part of a news event that included our Board of Education President, Jennifer Adair, and members of the board, Mayor Andrew Ginther, our City Council President, Shannon Harden, our City Health Commissioner, Dr. Mashika Roberts, and of course, our Superintendent, Dr. Dixon. If you haven't seen that news conference, I'd encourage you to go to our website, ccsoh.us, and you can see the news conference itself. But let me share with you real quick the news that Dr. Dixon shared. And hopefully you've seen this in an email to you. If your staff or family, you've gotten this email. What she shared was that since we shared those initial reopening plans a month ago today, the public health conditions in our area have worsened. You've all seen the news. The spread of new COVID-19 infections continues to increase dramatically, not just within the city of Columbus, but really within the zip codes that make up our Columbus City Schools district. And although it was our hope that we could return to some form of in-person learning in September, The risk of bringing back 50,000 students, 9,000 employees to our buildings was really far too great. So what Dr. Dixon announced was that Columbus City Schools will begin the 2020-2021 school year fully remote, all virtual learning for grades pre-K through 12. And we're going to operate in this completely virtual environment through at least the first quarter. So that's the start of school on Tuesday, September 8th through Tuesday, October 27th for those schools on the traditional calendar. It's important to understand, and we're going to stress it several times tonight, that the virtual learning this fall will be very different than those online classes, those online lessons that began so quickly back in March and April when our school buildings were closed following Governor DeWine's announcement. And we're also going to make sure that prior to the start of school on September 8th, our teachers and staff are going to have some intensive training on this new curriculum and platform so that they are best ready to work with your students. We're going to make sure that teachers are in contact with their students on a frequent and regular basis. And more information, we're going to make sure that you have it as families to understand how the platforms work, whether you're doing part of our digital academy or the remote learning, because we want to make sure that you have that information, our community partners have that information, and that everyone is best ready to be successful. Now, Dr. Dixon was very frank. She knew that the news of this change and starting back in the fall with full virtual learning model would please many of our community, but she also knew that some would not be pleased. And ultimately, safety and health concerns led to the final decision and prioritizing that we keep all of us safe as we work to lower those COVID-19 infections. And our mission has been to protect the health and safety of our students, our families, our staff, the community as a whole, and that's going to be always at the forefront of our decisions. And as a district, we'll continue to monitor those public health conditions before determining when it would be safe and practical to begin in-person learning experiences. And what she closed, and so many of the folks that day shared, is that it is imperative that we work together to make that first quarter the best educational experience possible for all of our students. We've got dedicated teachers and staff, our community partners, so many in our city who are committed to achieving that positive outcome for all of our students. And I appreciated that Board President Adair even stressed that we should be excited about the start of school. It's going to look very different. And we know there are some stresses and concerns to get there, but let's be excited about the start of learning. That start of learning, as we said, is going to look differently this year as we look at the different options between the K-12 Digital Academy and the school-based remote learning. So let's get into it, because I know you want to see a demonstration. You want to make sure that you have the best information possible and that that's information then that you can share with others. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a moment and introduce Pegeen Cleary, who is the Executive Director who is overseeing the K-12 Digital Academy, doing a great job. Pegeen, I'm going to turn it over to you to get us started.
Thank you, Scott. And tonight, to introduce myself, I am Pegeen Cleary Potts, and I'm very excited to be part of this initiative. And I just want to start out by saying, as like Scott said, Dr. Dixon has made an announcement this week. We're all going to go back remotely, but tonight we want to try to start the evening out trying to talk about what that means. What does remote learning mean as compared to digital? But before we start all of that, I think it's always important to start every conversation around our own district mission and vision, because every decision that we make in the district always goes back to each student is highly educated, prepared for leadership and service, and empowered for a success as a citizen in a global community. And we strive to have a world-class model of education and prepare members of our community to reach their full potential. This initiative of the Columbus Digital Academy is just that next step. We're trying to meet the needs of all. So I just wanted to start there in saying that. For the 100% Digital Academy, it is for students in K through 12. And I want to just start out by just a few clarifying questions before we get to these really important definitions. But to start the evening, I want to make sure, as I was reading the chat box in the that's going on. There's so many of the same questions that are asked over and over. So I just thought, let's start there. There is a 1 semester commitment for both of these options. So whether you decide for the 100% digital, or let's say you want to go back in the remote learning at your regular school, both of those commitments are going to be for a semester. The deadline to enroll for this digital academy is fast approaching. It is August 1st, 2020. And like I started out, the Digital Learning Academy is open to K through 12. So there is no pre-K option in the digital learning. However, there is through the remote learning. Chromebooks will be provided to students if they are needed, and the Digital Academy will be staffed by Columbus City School teachers. They will also have their own principal. It will be a school, but run kind of like a program. Your enrollment at your home school, especially in those lottery circumstances, is safe. So if you decide to go back, your space is there at second semester. Your IEP and your ETR compliances will be maintained, and students, whether in remote or digital learning, will both have access to food services with meals distributions at designated locations. Students will also be able to participate with their home schools for their sports and extracurricular activities. So those are some of the same questions that I ask answer over and over. So I just thought it was a good place to start. So another thing tonight, let's begin by going over a few concepts and some vocabulary words to help us understand what they mean and where we're going with them. The biggest distinction is remote learning versus digital learning. So in a remote learning environment, the teacher is actually the driver of education. It's synchronous learning, right? Digital, on the other hand, the platform is the driver of the education, and the teacher actually is the driver to success. And it's more of an asynchronous learning situation. And we're going to talk about what that means. So let's start with, next slide, if you don't mind, synchronous learning. Synchronous is where the class interactions happen in real time. So in this particular case, it would be our remote learning opportunity. Access to the teachers on a daily basis through webinars, WebEx, webcast, chat channels, Google Classrooms. And as we talk about synchronous learning, our next slide will show you kind of a tentative learning schedule. It would really follow basically what the student does on a typical schedule of years past, right? So you would go to a classroom, the teacher would have a little lesson, and then the student would be given time to complete the task. And then you would go to another class, do the same thing. So this is just a kind of a simple tentative remote learning schedule. And remember, remote would be synchronous, where you're going to get some of that learning live from that teacher. Our next slide really goes to the word asynchronous. And that is where the class interactions happen via the platform. The platforms we've chosen are Ingenuity and Apex. But when you learn from that learning platform, it is without or with limited time instruction, real-time instruction. So when we say that, that's really our digital academy. You're going to have the learning platforms. There's going to be pre-recorded lessons. There will be assignments that will be asked for the student to complete. They will take tests. There will be email, blogs, discussion boards. But the learning will really be at the student's own pace and through their way of learning. So somebody said, could I see a sample of that digital schedule? Well, the beautiful part about a digital schedule, there's no right or wrong schedule. Students choose the digital schedule for a variety of reasons. We have seen that in years past where they've done VCAP. We've had students that work full-time and wanted to get their education at different schedules. So that model worked. So whether you want to be safe in your own home, or if the student needs to work to help support the family, or let's say it's a premier athlete that has to have ice time at a particular time, this way of education really helps a variety of students. But the students will learn completely virtually through their online delivery. Their flexible schedule and the learning is self-paced. The students will have access to the curriculum 24/7. There will be some suggested times. So especially for middle or high school, they're talking about at least a 50 to a 60-minute commitment to each of those core contents in order to be able to successfully complete those within that semester block. The earlier age students, it's about 4 hours a day. And next week, we will have a deep dive exactly into that to show you more on that. This option through the digital, students can actually meet with their teachers during their scheduled office hours, but they have access to those teachers. They can ask questions through email and then have communication through different Zoom meetings or webinars to get that extra help. The curriculum platforms, like I said, through thoughtful consideration, the district has landed on Ingenuity for K-8 and Apex for 9-12. The reason for the difference for the high school, that Apex really offered our students the luxury of those classes being accepted right now for sports, for NCAA, and a lot of the colleges out there will also accept Apex courses as viable courses on the transcript. So that's a really important reason. And then both of these different platforms have accessibility features like closed captionings, transcripts, color contrast options, multiple representations of key concepts. So if you learn better by hearing, or if you learn better by seeing, there's different ways to be able to learn the same thing. And then there are always direct instructional videos that students can go back to as many times as they need to get that content. The next slide, please. And with this model, there are so many decisions that need to be made and so many things that you have to consider. Some of those things we kind of tried to outline just to go over quickly. You know, some question as a parent you might want to ask, is your student self-motivated or is it a self-starter? You know, the Columbus Digital Academy is self-paced. So the student really is going to have to navigate through the work independently. So that's something that you really want to think about. They do have the ability to communicate with the teacher, but oftentimes they're going to have to reach out to ask for those extra supports. Next thing, are you able to sit consistently with your student to help in that beginning? Because that distant learning, it's a learning curve for all students, parents. So there might be some time that you're going to have to dedicate to help those students to be successful in the beginning. Did your student require significant support in the Q4 last year? Students may need supports assessing the assignments and logging in and participating, but once you get in that rhythm, it really did work, and this can too. Does your student receive the therapy services like physical, speech, occupational? Those services will be provided synchronously and asynchronously. Does your student receive accommodations? This is a question that we're asked over and over. Or modification. And in the Digital Academy, accommodations and modifications will be reviewed. Does your student follow the extended learning standards? I can tell you right now, the Digital Academy curriculum is aligned to the Ohio Learning Standards. So we're real proud of that. Does your student require supervision? This is something you're going to have to ask, because in that digital 100% online academy, there's not a lot of real supervision. So that's something that you really want to look at, because it is 100% completely online. And then another consideration is, will the students respond to the changes to the social interactions? Because in the Digital Academy, those students will not have that regular access on a day-to-day basis with students. So those are some things that you may want to consider. So, like I mentioned, the district has done a lot of research into these platforms, and we firmly believe it's a really good place to start. So we're going to start with Ingenuity. They were unable to be here, but they did provide a short video. And we also, hot off the press, have been able to get them to do a K-5 session and a 6-8 session for deeper dive. But this video we've gone through, I've had parents of students gone through, and it's a very valuable short clip that I think will answer some of your questions. Scott?
Welcome to a quick overview for parents of your K-5 virtual students experience. When they log in, they will see all of their courses. My demo student has courses in every different grade level. Here's where students will see their dashboard. They can see their current score, their progress. And when they click on the course, they will get right into those different modules. There is a resource folder that will give you, as the learning coach, some ideas of things that will help you. You can see we've got different videos for even how to log in, how to upload to the Dropbox. So these are here to support you as you're helping your student. We are in Module 9 of first grade language arts, and you can see that for each day of the week, they have different activities that they're working on. So 9.1 would be the first day.
In this lesson, you will be listening for the sh and sounds. You will be introduced to your new weekly sight words and spelling words. You will also begin planning a story of your own with a beginning, middle, and end.
So this is introducing the students to what they're learning. As a learning coach, you can click on this tab to be able to see the objectives for the week, the keywords, skills needed, any offline materials that might be needed, and then also some notes to help you as you are supporting your student. Students will see fun characters like the phonics panda each week. And every module does have a video, so this is introducing what they're learning.
You have learned that each letter of the alphabet has at least one sound. But sometimes, when we put two letters together, they make a new sound called a digraph. You know that the letter S makes the S sound, and that the letter H makes the H sound. But when you put these two letters together, they make a new sound. Shh. Let's listen for some words with the sh sound in them. Shark. What is the first sound you heard when I said shark?
So you can see that that is introducing those sounds, and then we'll get on to the next page where the students will access their sight words. They can click this download button to see the page in their workbooks, and all of the sight words are at the back of the workbook. You'll see that in the table of contents where they can cut those out, or they could print them and cut them out if you're using just a printer instead of the workbook. They will now be able to hear those words.
Could. Let.
In K, first and second grade, the reader is a real person, so we're modeling that fluent reading for them. Now they're going to meet the spelling snake to learn their new spelling words.
Shop. Ship.
Again, using that digraph that they're learning, the SH sound. And now there's the first exposure to the story that they're reading throughout the week. So here is the book. They can click on it and have it read aloud to them. Notice that the sight words are highlighted.
Shark, your teeth are filthy. Could you let me brush them? Shark's mom asks. No, I will not let you brush them, said Shark.
And there is a PDF that they can click on to download the story and print it and have it at home if they want to have it in their hands versus just online. The last part of day one for this week is where we're going to help them start to think about writing a story with a beginning, middle, and end. The writing walrus will introduce that. Here's where we're talking to them about writing a story. Of course, they can have this read aloud to them. And then they will click on this activity and they will start with their story by drawing pictures for beginning, middle, and end. Here's an example of the chicken, the egg, and the little chick. So they will just take a picture of this with the phone and upload that to the Dropbox so the teacher will be able to see when they finish what they're going to be writing about. So that concludes the work for today.
Great work today.
The rest of that module will continue looking at the same digraphs, SH and TH, as they go through the week. Here's an example of everything that was due that week. So this will provide you a way to make sure students have turned everything in. You can go back and click to see, for example, the handwriting that they're working on day 2. So what they should have completed that you can take a picture of and upload that to the Dropbox. We provide this for the learning coach so that you're able to see everything that was due. And then again, you can just upload it here. Now, we do have a video in the resources that will help you if you have any questions. We are going to change things up now and go into 4th grade math. Let's take a look at Module 1, and we're going to look at solving basic equations. You can see that the interface is a little bit more mature for 4th graders versus 1st graders. The Learning Coach tab, of course, is still available, and it does provide the objectives, the keywords, the skills that students are working on in this lesson. I do want to take a minute and look at this toolbar that's available for all students. You can click on this Settings tab and choose Speech Options, Voice Speed, Text Highlighting, Speech Mode. There are also 33 languages that it can be translated into. I've chosen Spanish here. And then there are some screen tools we'll look at in a minute. This hand lets the student choose to have anything read aloud to them that they need help with.
Every math problem has something you don't know and are trying to figure out.
You can click on the world to be able to get the translation. Because I chose Spanish, I see that in Spanish and I can have it read aloud to me.
Cada problema matemático tiene algo que no sabes y que estás tratando de resolver.
And that is available in the Learning Coach tab as well, should you need that support. I'm going to highlight a word and click here on the dictionary to get that dictionary definition. You can have that read aloud to me as well. I'm going to choose Element and click the picture dictionary. Shows a couple pictures there.
Element.
Not all words have a picture dictionary option, but many do. If the student chooses to read on their own, they can click that screen mask and that helps them keep their place. This toolbar is available in all courses. Let's take a quick look at part of this video.
In the mathematical world, symbols are used in several ways to represent numbers, special quantities, and values that are unknown. Numbers have a written name. For instance, the numeral 5, the Roman numeral 5, the word 5, and cinco in Spanish are different symbols that stand for the same quantity, this many. Special quantities are also represented by symbols, like pi. No, it's not a round thing with flaky crust. This is the Greek letter pi, which stands for a little bit more than 3.14159. It's a number with unending and never repeating decimal digits. 5 and pi are both numbers, constants, values that don't change. Symbols can also stand for values that do change under different circumstances, or that we haven't figured out. These are called variables. We can use a question mark to represent a variable. A few examples of the use of a question mark are 148 plus 39 equals a question mark. 27 divided by 3 equals a question mark. Or the air temperature is a question mark in degrees Fahrenheit. Like a question mark, other letters or symbols can represent numbers that vary or that we haven't figured out yet. This allows us to have more than one at a time for different quantities. Let's look at some examples of how symbols can represent variables.
After the students watch the video, then they will work with that information. You can see how we walked them through the idea about variables representing an unknown in an equation. And then we have some supported practice where we help students see if they're getting the answer right. The independent practice will be that offline piece, whether it's in their workbook or it's a printable PDF. And they will be able to practice here, take a picture, and upload that to the Dropbox.
Okay, so that was just a little short video, and we know it's not exactly, but I thought it was something that we could go through so you could kind of at least visualize it until we can get them on the schedule. And it looks like they have agreed and have accepted on August 4th. So we'll get those times out for you for the 2 different sessions. During that video, I've been trying to watch the feed, and there's a couple things I just want to go back to say. Remember, remote is what you would do when you go to your normal school. You will have the teachers and it will be done remotely, but it will not be using this platform. The platform that we're viewing tonight is for the 100% Digital Academy. So that's a little bit of a difference. The education is coming from a platform in the digital. The teacher will be delivering the education through remote, through Zoom and WebEx. I thought this was a wonderful question. What happens if you don't sign up for digital or remote? What is the default? The default, if you don't sign up, is remote. So that was a great question. Again, the semester question came back. What if you go back in the second quarter and you want to jump into the digital? We can't do that until the start of the second semester. Wherever you are, quarter 1, you're going to be quarter 1 and quarter 2. Student teacher ratio, we're working on that. And when will they get a schedule? The schedule, as soon as we get in, again, we're talking digital tonight. You will have that available as soon as we get you signed up in the first day. And we're also going to be doing parent academy meetings and Zoom meetings so that in boot camp, so that you know exactly what will happen. And that will be prior to the beginning of school. The other thing is, somebody said, what about a fact sheet? We do have an FAQ on some of these questions, and we will make sure that we get those loaded up on the website for you. So in saying that, I'm going to take a moment and introduce you to a live Jason Mitchell to talk to you about the Apex Learning Platform.
Perfect.
Jason?
Thank you. Thanks for the introduction. And let me see if I can share my screen here real fast. Let's see, it says disabled attendee sharing. Scott, can you help me on that? Perfect. All right, we'll tell you what, while they're getting that squared away, I just want to say hello. My name is Jason Mitchell, and I want to thank you for joining me today to learn about creating more opportunities for our students. First and foremost, I do want to say that we understand that for families and parents and students and for all of us, this is new. And we totally understand that these can be less than ideal circumstances. But I do want to reassure you that your child will continue to learn. They will continue to march towards graduation. And like Scott said, it's going to look different, but it's still going to be effective. So we definitely want to reiterate that. All right, let's see. Let me check and see if I can share my screen now. All right, still says host disabled attendee.
We're working on it. Give me just a second to get you set up so you can share your video as well.
No problem. All right. So, it says I'm co-host now. Well, perfect. Oh, well, you're not really missing anything right now. I'm just showing a regular slide. Okay, there we go. So just a couple things about this. I'd say we partnered with the Columbus City Schools to help them move towards virtual teaching and learning. For a lot of districts, this is uncharted territory. For us at Apex, this is squarely in our wheelhouse. We've done it for the last 22 years by providing virtual options to students and their families. And we've worked with some pretty amazing people over time. We've worked with people like Apollo Ono, who was the Olympic speed skater. We taught an American Idol student. We helped Mark Wahlberg go back to school while he was still, while he was filming a movie and on set. And the good news is our kids are excelling. And I know for your child, this environment is going to be different and it might be uncomfortable, but the outcome is going to be the same. Your child's in good hands. And I think it's so clear when we've partnered with our friends at the school district. Their teachers are caring, they're capable, and just like Scott said earlier, they're going to be ready. In March, it caught everybody off guard, and districts only had like 2 or 3 days to create a plan. And most of us teachers, we weren't taught to teach in a virtual environment, so it was really challenging. But this year in the fall, when we go back to school, we have a plan. We're ready. Our teachers are ready. The staff's ready. Administration's ready. It's going to be good. For tonight's discussion, in our part of it, I wanted to go through a few things. I'm going to give an overview of what it looks like for a student in their virtual environment. I'm going to show you what it looks like from a parent's side, as well as from a teacher's side. So for those of you who didn't sit through the last session, I'm going to do some level setting and just build a little bit of background, and then I'll go live into the content. And we'll go from there. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Apex, we are solely focused on that secondary student. We've been doing it since 1997. We actually started off by offering advanced placement courses for rural school districts. But since then, we've developed a full suite of middle school and high school courses. I think the fact that we started as a distance learning provider, it means that we understand what it's like to create content in a virtual environment and deliver it in that environment. And right now, in this case in particular, it's going to make a difference with your students. Over the years, we've partnered with organizations that are the very best in their field. And what we want to make sure is that your child is getting the most effective research-based instructional strategies possible. And we also want to make sure that we provide our parents with a lot of options. Our courses have been approved by NCAA. Our AP courses have been approved by the College Board. We also want to make sure that you as parents have even more options above and beyond that when it comes to the depth and breadth of course offerings. Our catalog includes courses in every content area. So math, science, social studies, language arts, world languages, AP courses, CTE courses, technology, coding, all sorts of fun stuff. Anything a student would need for a credit-bearing option, but it can also be used flexibly. So if you have a student who's taking honors classes, they can still take those. Or a student who's taking AP, or a student who's recovering a credit in credit recovery. You all have options, lots of options, and options with flexibility. Just a little bit about the impact that we've had with some of our students. The students who took Apex AP courses ended up outperforming students across the nation on the AP exam, which is super cool. Additionally, and our students who are enrolled in the virtual programs, they've scored an average of 200 points higher on the SAT than the national average. But I think what you're probably concerned about is, what about if my child takes a class, an Algebra 1 class virtually, how is it gonna impact them over time? Like, are they really gonna learn it? So we actually measure students longitudinally. And this was an assessment that we did on a district that used Apex for all their content. And we measured it over time and in the different content areas. For example, in Algebra 1, for the students who took an Apex Algebra 1 course, 95.6% of those students went on to pass geometry. And those same stats were true across grades and across content areas. Our kids are learning the content, and that's really important. I know it's really important to you all as well. One thing that we do know is that virtual programs are unique, and they need to be structured in a way that supports student success. When we think about what students need in a virtual environment, it's definitely putting them at the center of everything that we do. And I love the Columbus team. I think they're the most student-centered focused team I've had the pleasure of working with. But when we think about a framework in a virtual environment, it's attending to students' social and emotional and mental health needs to make sure that they're ready to learn. It's setting high expectations for our students, all of our students, they rise to them. It's giving them options for personalized learning so that they can go at their own time, in their own way, at their own pace. It's making sure that what we give them is relevant and engaging and rigorous and accessible. But I think as we talk about the most important piece in that equation, it's the relationship that your child has with their teacher and their counselor and their mentor and their coach at the school. The first 5, that's what we commit to bring to your student and to the school district. The school district has the most important part in this equation, and that's the teacher. And their teacher builds the relationships. They make sure that your student stays on task and on time, and they're successful. So we just sort of facilitate that relationship in there. Just a couple of things on how it works. When we think about the relevance of the content, just making sure that what we're presenting them is something that makes sense. So we're not just going to present a lesson on multiplying binomials. I am not a math guy. That makes my palms sweat. I don't like it at all. We're going to use something that's real and relevant and engaging, because what we want our students to be able to do is apply the skills they've learned in a real world example. And so we teach with real world examples. We also use engaging content. And what we don't do is just put students, plop them down and make them watch videos all day long, or answer questions after reading an online text. In Apex, they've got to do something, see something, say something, move something, explain something every 15 to 20 seconds in order to progress. So this is not passive video-based instruction. If it were just as simple as watching videos, then YouTube at home would work, but it doesn't. In Apex, students have to engage with the content in order to complete it. A couple of things about this is we think about a very diverse student population and the diverse needs of our learners. The content, it's aligned to your state standards. It's rigorous, but it also needs to be accessible for students who have different levels of readiness. So you could think of this content as like, I always like to think of it like an accordion. So if the student needs supports and scaffolds, they can grab onto those. They're there. They can expand the content out to meet their needs. If they don't need it, they can contract that accordion and they can fly through it at their own pace. There are tools that are built in. There's built-in remediation for students that struggle. There is literacy instruction in all the content areas. There are supports for English language learners. There are supports for students who are reading below grade level. All students can be successful in this. So now that you've seen some of the content and the big look fors, I'm just going to kind of walk you through some of the live content in this. So this is what it looks like. Students have access anytime, anywhere. They log in with their own ID and passcode. And on their dashboard, they can see exactly what classes they're enrolled in. They can go to a calendar to make sure that they're staying on track. They can see messages from their teacher. They can go to help. The help section is super great because they can get support. They can run a system diagnostics. They can chat, call, email our support team. They can also get these getting started videos. And they can also log right into their classes. So once a student logs into a class, this is what it looks like. The student's progress and pathway, it's very clearly indicated by incomplete circles or completed checks. The navigation is easy to follow. They can see these visual indicators of the units. They can also see their course syllabus, which shows each unit, each lesson, each activity. And no matter what Apex course they're enrolled in, it follows the same progression. It's instruction and interactivity, followed by an assessment at the end of each unit. There's also options for things like discussions and projects and non-scored practice tests, all before they get to the computer and teacher scored test. So on the resources tab, they can also see things like tools and different key terms, calculators, all sorts of tools that they could use in that. All right, so let's look at the navigation and interface. When students are when they come in, it always starts where they left off. So this is a lesson on identifying functions. And you can see that there's just a short little bit of instruction, and it's always followed by some type of interactive tool or manipulative that reinforces the learning. This is learn by doing. There's some built-in reading supports. There's vocabulary supports, visual and audio cues, very helpful to our English learners. Students can also access the guided note-taking tools. Now, these are designed to help students learn how to learn. How do you make meaning out of this text that they're going through? We want to do that while we're developing critical thinking skills. So in these notes, they can also access the answer key should they need a little bit more help solving the problem. All the instruction is delivered in very short bursts, and it's followed by those great interactive learning tools that allow them to learn by doing and keep them engaged. But you can also see that they have to progress after that chunked learning. And now the learning is followed by a quick check to make sure that they understand it. So this is a non-scored formative assessment. It gives them hints, it gives them corrective feedback. We want our students to develop these executive thinking skills, and then we want them to take ownership of their learning. We want them to know if they're on the right track, and if not, what to do, right? So in addition to the supports and scaffolds that we've already looked at, things like the reading supports and the study guides, there are also transcripts for anything that's video or audio. There's text to speech in any course. We also use our own curriculum experts to navigate that. For students who are English learners, they can also have that text translated into different languages and read out loud in that language. For students who need a paper option or a paper version, you can also print out every lesson in the course. Some students need that. Students can also send messages to their teachers, and they can submit their homework online. It's super easy. They just create a new message, they select their teacher, they click that little box that says submit homework, they choose their course, their lesson, they can attach anything. You can see I did this really cool project in math. They just hit send and it goes right to their teacher. Then within the platform, their teacher can give them feedback, their teacher can assign a grade, so the student knows exactly how they did on that. It's really easy to navigate for our students. On the teacher side of the equation, we want to make sure that the teachers also have good access and insight to data. So whether it's their teacher or a counselor, they have that data to drive that relationship. There's transparency in that student performance. So if a student struggles, the teacher's going to know immediately. And if they need to intervene, they're going to know, is it behavioral? Is it academic? How do I need to intervene? So everybody from the teacher, the coach, the mentor, the counselor, everybody's going to have the data that they need, as do the parents. And you all are the most important piece in this puzzle to a student's success. You always have insight as to how your child is doing. You get very easy to read parent reports. It's green, yellow, red. You can use those stoplight indicators to check on their progress. You see day by day, class by class, how your child's doing. Are they on pace? Are they understanding the content? You're kept in the loop of your child's progress so that you can make sure that they're successful. You can also use these reports in your parent-teacher conferences, which are super helpful. We thought you might like to hear what some of the students say and who've been through our courses. So this is from Eleni. She's from Dallas, Texas, and she's a recent graduate. She went to school about 2 miles from my house. And so she came to the United States from Ethiopia as a refugee about 4 years ago. And this was what she said. She said, I was learning at my own speed and my own time. It was really fun. I didn't have to worry about others. I didn't have to keep up. I could go at my own pace. It was really enjoyable. And then she went on to say later on, she said, I felt pretty confident when I went into the testing, and because of Apex, I passed and I'm college bound. I love that, right? I mean, that's what we want our children and our students to do. As a parent, I know you're concerned. I mean, we had 900 people sign up the first night. You guys you're worried about your kids, and rightfully so. And so this was a parent from Mount Pleasant, Iowa. And he said, Apex Learning online reporting tools, they enabled me to easily monitor my 12th grader. And he said, the fact that, that our child has taken 9 online courses with Apex says it all. I think we really want to reassure you that this is going to be okay for your children, and it's going to be a good learning experience. We do want to set some expectations on this. First and foremost, Apex and the district, we have a strong partnership. We are in this together, and we are in this together to support your child's success. So in addition to that support, in addition to the engaging content, there are some other expectations. Your students, they're going to have, or your child, they're going to have control over time and place. They can learn whenever, wherever, 24/7. They're going to be able to take control of their pace and their duration. So again, like that accordion, they can speed through things that they already know, or they can take as long as they need to understand a concept. They're going to have the control over acceleration or support. So if your child can get ahead, let's let them run if they're ready. Or if they need support and they need to slow down, they can get it. Your student will have consistent contact with their teachers. We want to make sure that that relationship is there and that your child is progressing fast enough and with mastery of the content. Your child will have access to teachers for help. They will be there to support. They will also have access to technical support, because no student should have to struggle with technical support our technical support team, your students, you as parents, the district, everybody has access to them, and their average response time is 16 seconds. They will take care of you, and they will take care of you fast. As a parent, some things we want to make sure that you're clear on what to expect. You're going to have insight into the daily activity of your child so that you can cheer them on and keep them motivated or intervene if needed. You're going to have real-time data on your child's performance and progress so you can instantly see if they're struggling and if they need help. You're going to have regular contact with your teachers, with parent-teacher conferences, so that everyone's on the same page. And you're going to have contact to you're going to have access to that technical support as well. Because in virtual schooling, if your kids can't log on, it doesn't work. And we want to make sure that we remove any of those barriers. So I'm going to wrap up where I started and just say our goal was to accomplish a few things. We wanted to show you what your child would see, what that experience would look like live, and as well as give you some things to look for, as well as what a teacher would see. I do want to reiterate that this is new, it's challenging for all of us, but your child will be okay in this. They will continue to learn. They will continue to march towards graduation. And who knows, they may even really excel and flourish in this environment. And we look forward to partnering with the schools, with their teachers, and with you and your child. And at Apex, you have our commitment. We will make sure that they're successful. So Jason Mitchell signing off, unless y'all have any questions.
Thank you, Jason. So just to wrap it up and to go over a few things that I'm reading your questions again, remote versus digital. And I asked Scott to put that slide back up because I think it really talks specifically about the remote and digital. Remote is teacher is the driver of education. Digital, the platform's the driver of education. But please understand, even in the digital learning, you will have access to your teachers. The actual education part will be delivered through the platform, but there will be plenty of time for you to be able to Zoom with the teachers. The main thing is they will have scheduled office hours on a daily basis, and then certain days during the week there will be bigger slots of time where you can Zoom in to get extra special if you're not getting one of the harder concepts. So I wanted to make sure you understood that. Another thing, Apex is for 9 to 12, Ingenuity K-8. And tonight was really about the presentation about the digital. Again, we are going to set up a demonstration of K-5 and 6-8 on August 4th, and the times will be posted. There's a lot of questions about acceleration. There is a fact sheet from Gifted, and we will make sure that's posted so some of those things are answered. A lot of questions around special education. Again, they had a whole meeting about special education, so we'll make sure that you can access that as well. The platforms, the big thing about tonight, the difference, if you think about what we saw in the platforms, that is the what will happen in the digital experience. Now, let's say you want to leave second semester. We are working hand in hand with the curriculum department so that it would be a seamless transition, so that what they're learning is very comparable at the same time as what is happening at their home schools. Let's see, educational team. Somebody said, well, is it just a teacher? Each student will be part of an educational team, which will include everything from teachers to their administrators, counselors, social workers. So we do have all of that brought in. I'm trying to see, there was a question about workbooks. Would they be provided? Workbooks will be provided for K-5, and Chromebooks will be provided if the student needs them. Somebody had a great question about career centers. The academic courses absolutely can be taken through our digital academy. It works out well. There would still be a more remote learning with the career center teachers. So we're working on that. But the academic piece can absolutely be taken through the digital academy. Reiterating the fact that we will have boot camps for not only those students, but parents. You will have a meet night with your particular teacher that is assigned to the core content. I'm trying to think. the seamless transition, the platforms are only for the digital. And I think I covered the ones that I were able to get if I was watching, but just to go back to the main ones. 1 semester commitment, deadline is August 1st, no pre-K, but Chromebooks are being provided. They will be staffed with Columbus City Schools teachers that you will have contact with, just not as much as it is in the remote. Digital Academy does have a principal, and that will be announced. Your enrollment at your homeschool is safe for a year. IEP, I'm going to refer you back to that special education webinar that should be posted. You might be able to get some of those questions clarified. Students will have the food and they will be able to participate in their extracurricular activities. I think, Scott, if you would like to say anything else, I think that kind of wraps up the majority of it. We really wanted to thank you. And again, I guess I would close out. Remote learning is the opportunity to stay connected to your home school using a curriculum that is not the digital curriculum, and you have more synchronous time with your teachers versus the digital option. You get these wonderful platforms, you get flexible scheduling, you can work 24/7 at your own pace, and it's more of an asynchronous learning. However, we will have access to those teachers and those times where you can get direct questions answered. So again, it's Peggy and Clary Potts signing off, and I hope you were able to get some of your questions answered. Have a great evening.
So Peggy, thank you. Thank you to everyone who was able to share information tonight. Again, I know this is a tough time for our families, and so many of you, as you think about what the new school year is going to look like, and we're asking you to make some decisions. August 1st is that deadline if you want to sign up for the Digital Academy. Remember, if you don't sign up for the Digital Academy, then you're automatically put into the remote learning program that so many of our students will be doing. So just remember that August 1st, that's the deadline this Saturday at midnight to make sure if you want to sign up for the Digital Academy. And I will tell you, as we shared at the beginning, more than 4,500 of our students have already taken advantage of signing up for this Digital Academy. So we're so excited. And I think tonight we had an opportunity to see what those assignments and what those lessons are going to look like. And again, as it was mentioned, this is an opportunity. The Digital Academy is at a student's own pace. If they choose to want to do their math homework at 5 o'clock at night, they can. Whereas the remote learning is going to be more structured. The remote learning, they need to take their math right at 9 o'clock with the classroom. That's going to be maybe on a Google Classroom or some other platform. The Digital Academy is at their own pace. Again, as Peggy shared with you, all of this information is available on our website. We want to make sure that we've shared as much with you as possible. So if you need information, please make sure to go to our Columbus City Schools website where we can have that information for you. On our website, just go to www.ccsoh.us/reopening. If you click on the virtual engagement tab, you will see videos that we've shared in the past, including the one on special education, because I know there were a lot of questions tonight about IEPs and 504 plans. So again, I would just encourage you to go to our website. You'll be able to see the information and actually watch the video. And our team from special education did a great job of explaining how we will make sure that those plans, we're going to be reviewing all of them to see how they work in a digital environment. Some of those accommodations will be able to be made. Some of the therapies will be more remote, but there's going to be an opportunity to share. As I look at the clock, we are nearing our hour, and we always try to keep these virtual engagement sessions to that 1 hour. But before I go, I see Peggy has one last point that she wants to make. So Peggy?
Somebody just asked a question that hadn't been asked yet. If they start out in the remote and you go back into regular school second quarter, at the break, at semester break, can those students then apply to get into the Digital Academy? And yes, they can. So we're just looking at things in semester blocks. If you're in the Digital Academy, there would be no reason to re-enroll. If you like it, you can stay, but we can get you into the remote learning if you want to go that way, or back to your homeschool if they're back in session at the semester break, and vice versa. So it goes both ways. So I just wanted to end it on that. And again, the gifted and the FAQ on gifted questions and on the virtual, we will make sure Scott has that and up on the internet no later than tomorrow. Thank you again for your time.
Great.
It's an exciting time.
And one last reminder, as we do with all of these virtual engagement sessions, there were so many of you that joined us tonight, but we know there are still so many more families that have questions that weren't able to be a part of tonight. Please share this information. If you know of another family, if you are one of our partners that works with our families, encourage them to watch this video, encourage them to go onto our website and make sure that you're sharing information so that we are all part of this greater conversation. And that's really how we're going to make sure that we're all successful, if we are all in this together, remembering that it's about everybody. So thank you again for being a part of this session, and look to our website and to email to know that there's going to be future sessions on so many topics, because we want everyone to be engaged and successful for that start of school on September 8th. Thank you, everybody, and have a great night.